Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PMP Live. I'm your host, TJ Riddell. Boy, do we have a good show for you on tap tonight. We got college football talk right now. We got NFL later tonight. Hopefully Caleb makes it on. But we're going to be talking about, first of all, college football. What happened in week 7, week 8. Well, not week 7, week 8. Then we'll make our predictions for week 9. A lot of stuff happened, and I got to say, we're going to get into it right now. Oh, so good to be home, folks. It really is. I just got back yesterday from Waco, Texas. That was a hell of a time. Shout out to my partner in crime, Caleb Wilburn, K-Dub. He is a great host at his house, and got to spend a lot of time with our work, and also behind the scenes, and also I'll be posting a vlog on the PMP YouTube. But I gotta say, there was a lot of games that scratched my head this weekend. There was a lot of games that I was just like, man, this ain't even a competition. And then there was games that were surprisingly really good. And then there was games that I expected, the expected, like the LSU and Ole Miss game. I expected LSU to put a beat down on Ole Miss. I think I said that on the show last week. Texas and Oklahoma State, I expected that to be a dog fight. Both teams have dog mentality, but one of them had the better outing. A surprising game, Cincinnati and SMU. That was a surprising game to me. And we'll go ahead and break that game down since we're already talking about it. We're talking about it. But I got to say, SMU brought that dog mentality in the second quarter because, man, what a game. 29-27. The Bearcats run away with this one. Honestly, SMU should have won this game, but just a lot of miscues on that offense, and not enough good opportunities for the Mustangs against the Bearcats, the 21-ranked Bearcats at the time. But it was pretty back and forth ever since the second quarter, and then the third quarter, it was nothing but field goals for Cincinnati, and they were up 29-14. And then SMU, they scored 2 unanswered touchdowns, but just couldn't get the 2-point conversion at 1 minute and 57 seconds left in the game. And Tanner Mordecai had a pretty decent game despite having 105 passing yards. Bryant, he only had 200 yards passing, but no touchdown or interception. So I guess that's okay. But McClelland had a terrific day as a running back for the Cincinnati Bearcats. 16 carries, 129 yards, 1 touchdown. I got to say, man, watch out for the Bearcats late in the season. But they have a tough task ahead of them. They got to go face the UCF Knights, who I have grown to love and appreciate. They are a really good team. But I look forward to watching that game this week. So we'll see what happens. Next game is a game that I watched when I just got up to Waco. And I'll be honest with you. I was tired. I was already hungry. Me and Caleb were watching the game. We were, first half looked relatively really well for Texas, and Oklahoma State had a lot of missed opportunities, but so did Texas. Quinn Ewers overthrowing passes, receivers not communicating well. But the second half, Texas was up 31-7 or 31-24 at the half, by the way. 31-24. Oklahoma State outscored Texas 17-3. Why? Because the offense couldn't get any opportunities going, and the defense got tired. I mean, Texas is starting to lose their dog mentality, apparently, because Oklahoma State came back and won this game, okay? And I'm sorry, but Oklahoma State looked like the better team in the second half. And they made Texas look like a bunch of bitches in the second half. Texas had a great first half, great outing of a first half, just allowed Dominic Richardson to score a 2-yard touchdown, 2 minutes and 41 seconds. But there were so many missed opportunities for Texas. I mean, overthrowing Xavier Worthy not communicating with Quinn Ewers, apparently. There was just a lot of things going on in that game that really frustrated me. I'm not going to rant about it because I have ranted about this my entire existence for the past decade or so, that Texas is mediocre. And we have to live by it. And it sucks. I hate to say that, but it is true. And I knew Texas and Oklahoma State, that's always wouldn't say a trap game for Texas, but it's always a fight. And Quinn Ewers, man, oh my gosh. His passing has been horrible the last 2 weeks since we beat Oklahoma. 19 for 41, 319 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. While Spencer Sanders, on the other hand, 34 for 57, 391 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Bijan Robinson, who's been the workhorse, along with Roschon Johnson, I think Texas is the best backfield in college football because of those two. 24 carries, 140 yards, 1 touchdown. Xavier Worthy did have 4 receptions, but he probably was targeted like 10 fucking times, okay? And had 78 yards, 1 touchdown. Green had 5 receptions, 133 yards, and 1 touchdown. When is Texas going to stop playing mediocre football and stop playing weird? I don't know what else to say. I think I said all I said Saturday to Caleb, and I mean, it's fairly disappointing as a Texas fan. But if you're a Pokes fan, you play that waving song until the cows go home, or whatever y'all say up there in Stillwater. And I'm pretty sure Peyton is now a Pokes fan. But yeah, I'm a little PO'd about it because Texas could have won that game pretty convincingly, but so many missed opportunities and misreads from Quinn Ewers and the wide receiving corps. Where was Jordan Whittington? How come he didn't get open? How come there was a little bit of play from Jatavian Sanders, you know? I think Sark was doing a little too much in that game because Oklahoma State is a tricky defense and Mike Gundy is a tricky coach. And I think Oklahoma State's back on the high horse of being in the Big 12 championship. It could be a TCU versus Oklahoma State matchup or a Kansas State and Oklahoma State matchup, depending on what happens this week. But yeah, I just don't know. I think Texas is still in the run in the Big 12, but it's a slim to none percentage for Texas. But big win for the Pokes. They jump up to number 9. They jump up 2 spots for the polls. Next game, not so much of a close game at all. I predicted it right. In the first quarter, it did look like Iowa was showing up to play, but then, oh man, it was just a complete disaster. And yeah, it was bad. Like, Ohio State's defense played well in this game. I mean, how could you not play well when fucking Iowa's quarterback can't even throw 50 yards in a game? I mean, that's fucking terrible. And Iowa fans, I feel your frustration about this because, man, if you don't have a good offense, your defense can't control the game by itself, especially with a more balanced team like Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to have a really good run here shortly because I think Ohio State wants Michigan. And then I think they want that national championship spotlight. They want that college football spotlight again, that Big Ten championship spotlight again. So hats off to the Buckeyes, 54-10. Next game, number 3, Tennessee remains unbeaten. Led in the half, 52-7. Then they started putting their seconds in. Then UT Martin found ways to score. They scored 17 points in the second half, but that's Tennessee's second team offense and defense. So, and Tennessee still scored 6 points in the third quarter and 7 points in the fourth. So, I gotta say, man, this Tennessee Volunteers team is good. They are good, and I think they proved it against Alabama. But they got a tricky team to face next week, and we'll talk about that later. Next game, number 5, Clemson, the Tigers, coming off of a big win against number 14, Syracuse. This was a dogfight. I picked Clemson in this matchup. I knew it was going to be a dogfight. I didn't really know what to expect from Syracuse, but they beat Clemson in the first half, 21-10 in the first half. And DJU is not playing that well, so Clemson decided to make a little switch. They had Cade Klubnik, Austin Westlake kid. Us Texans know that kid very well. Texas Longhorn fans especially know this kid because we were trying to get his ass, and that didn't bode well to us because he chose Dabo Swinney, and rightfully so. I really do think Clemson is a really good program over there. But Cade Klubnik, he did start off shaky, but I got to say, he's the future of Clemson football, man. I really do think so. And DJU really struggled in this game, even though I think he is better this season. That Syracuse defense really showed out in this game. But that Clemson defense showed up in the second half, completely shut out Clemson or Syracuse. And Clemson started to come back in the fourth quarter, and they scored 17 unanswered points and won the game. Will Shipley with a 50-yard run, and Cade Klubnik throws a 2-point conversion pass to Joseph Gata. And, man, what a game. What a game. And I got to say, I'm impressed with Clemson with fighting with adversity, especially at home against a really tough Syracuse Orange defense. But next game we're going to talk about, I was right. I was right about this. Fucking LSU is now bowl eligible for the first time since 2019, 2020, somewhere around there. I don't remember because it's been a while since I really covered LSU. But LSU 45-20. Now Brian Kelly, I still think I don't really have good feelings about Brian Kelly, but I don't know what this LSU team has done since the Florida State game, but they are looking sharp. And that defense completely trashed that Ole Miss team. Even though Quentin Judkins got 111 yards, he did have 25 carries, 2 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels has been incredible ever since Arizona State. I have kept up with this kid since his freshman year in Arizona State. He's a bad motherfucker. And LSU, they might beat Alabama with the way they've been playing. But they don't play this week. We'll see what happens with LSU. We'll see what happens with Ole Miss. But Ole Miss does take on A&M at College Station, so that's another tough environment for the Rebels. But, man, I told y'all, Jackson Dart hasn't been able to make those throws. They haven't been able to make big plays in the past game. But, man, Ole Miss got their ass whooped in this game. But the last game I got wrong this week, I only got 2 games wrong. The Texas and Oklahoma State game and the Oregon and UCLA game. Boy, did Oregon show up to fucking play. College game day was there. Oregon absolutely has been on fire since that loss to Georgia, that 49-3 humiliating loss. Now they're on a 6-game win streak. They're looking good right now. I think they're on the front runner seat in the Pac-12 championship. They're going to meet either USC or UCLA in the Pac-12 championship. I think Oregon is going to win out until the Pac-12 championship game. Oregon is a really good football team right now, and Bo Nix is really feeling himself over there in Oregon now. I mean, look at this stat for him. 22 for 28, 283 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. In Irving, 19 carries, 107 yards. And Franklin with the receiving yards, 8 receptions, 132 yards, 2 tutties for that man. But Zach Charbonnet, like I said, he is underrated. He really is underrated. And, man, 20 carries, 151 yards, 1 touchdown. And DTR, he had a decent game, but not the best. 27 for 39, 262 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. And Bobo, 8 receptions, 101 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. But, man, Oregon was up 31-13 at the half. UCLA didn't score any touchdowns until the fourth quarter. They scored a field goal in the third, but didn't really start to show up until the fourth quarter, and it was just already too late because Oregon was up big already. I mean, they were up 38-16 at that point, and that game was over. But hats off to the Oregon Ducks. I will say this right now. I am not going to pick against them for a while, at least. they have proven to me that they have really stepped up ever since that loss to Georgia. Next game is another game I got right. Pretty expected. 43-15, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons show out, and Hartman accounts for 6 touchdowns in this game. Sam Hartman, 25 for 40, 313 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. He has been phenomenal this year. I could see him as a dark horse Heisman, even though he missed a couple of games. He could be a dark horse Heisman. Okay? And, Jerkovic for Boston College, 20 for 38, 221 passing yards, 1 touchdown. And Flowers, my goodness, 10 receptions, 135 yards, and 1 touchdown. But how about the Demon Deacons, man? They are really good this year. The ACC has really stepped up this year as well, as far as not only Clemson, but you're seeing teams like Wake Forest, North Carolina, Syracuse really stepping up to the plate. Florida State's even stepped up. I mean, this is a huge year of college football, and I couldn't be more proud of those teams over there in the ACC. They are really showing up this year. Next game is a game that I thought it'd be a little bit more, but the first half really showed out for Tulane. They had a 35-0 run, and then Memphis just showed up out of nowhere in the second half, and it was 35-21 in the fourth quarter within 14 minutes and 2 seconds left. So still plenty of time to get some points, but then Valentino and Brizio gets a 25-yard field goal. Then Eddie Lewis gets a pass or gets a reception from Seth Hennigan for a 55-yard pass for a touchdown. Makes it 38-28. That is your final score. Number 25, Tulane, comes away with a victory. Even though they had a really good first half against Memphis, Memphis found a way to bounce back, and unfortunately, they were not able to pull away with the upset. But Tulane is another team that has that dog mentality that Nick Sirianni talks about. But, man, what a game. Next game, not so much of a good game. And kind of what I thought would happen. Alabama, number 6 Alabama, squares off against number 24 Mississippi State, the high-powered offense for Mississippi State. Alabama shut them out until the last seconds of the game. That was a statement win for Alabama, not only offensively but defensively. Man, they put on a show against them Bulldogs over there at Mississippi State. Even though they're at home, they put the beat down on Mississippi State. Bryce Young, another Heisman contender in my eyes. 21 for 35, 249 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, he didn't really have enough yards in this game, in my opinion. 10 carries, 37 yards, but he did get a touchdown. Brooks, 3 receptions, 74 yards. Will Rogers, 30 for 60. This is a Mike Leach offense, so do expect 60 attempts. So 30 for 60, that's half, 50% completion rate, and 231 yards. No picks, no turnovers, no touchdowns, though. Marks, 13 carries, 53 yards, 1 touchdown. And he was the last person to score in the game with double zeros on the clock. That was the last play of the game, and Alabama just completely controlled that game. Mike Leach, I love Mike Leach, man. But he said some shit that I knew was going to happen one day at Mississippi State. But he said, he basically said all of our players are scared of Alabama, and if you want to scare players, just wear an Alabama jersey. So maybe if I ever go to Starkville, I'll have to wear an Alabama jersey around them players to scare them off. But no, hats off to Nick Saban and that Alabama team really bouncing back after that loss in Tennessee. Next game, Minnesota travels to Beaver Stadium to take on the number 16 Penn State Nittany Lions. Pretty much what I thought would happen. 45-17, Penn State takes the win. At first, Minnesota kind of surprised me by holding that offense. Penn State did not score in the first quarter, but then, Penn State really put the beat down on Minnesota after the second half. I mean, it was a 17-10 first half, but then all of a sudden Minnesota could not score in the third quarter. They finally scored after a 38-10 deficit. They scored, make it 38-17, and then Nicholas Singleton finishes off the game with a 30-yard run. 45-17, Penn State wins. Next game, the last game, the game of the week, in my opinion, which was a really decent game. And TCU, they have shown that they can outdo adversity. And this is the fourth straight ranked team, I believe, that they have won against. And they came off of a win against Oklahoma State. They put the beat down on Oklahoma. They find a way to beat Kansas. And this is the second week in a row that they had to rally back and actually win. But this was more competitive. But, man, Kansas State looks really good in this game. But, yeah, Max Duggan, Keandre Miller has really been a big factor for this TCU offense. Johnston as well, Quentin Johnston. Max Duggan, 17 for 26, 208 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Adrian Martinez did get knocked out of the game, and the backup Howard had to step in, 13 for 20, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he did throw a pick. Deuce Vaughn, he didn't reach 100, but he was close. 12 carries, 83 yards, 1 touchdown. Keandre Miller had a spectacular game. 29 carries, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Quentin Johnson, 4 receptions, 74 yards, 1 touchdown. Knowles, 4 receptions, 69 yards. And what a game. What a Big 12 Classic game again for the Horned Frogs. Number 8 in the country. On the road to Dallas. On the road to possibly the college football playoffs. The Horned Frogs come away with a big win, 38-28. And that concludes week number 8 of the college football recap. Now, I got to say, before we go into week 9, I only had 2 bad games that I picked wrong. But the first game wasn't a bad game that I completely fudged up. It could have gone either way. I thought it was going to be a dogfight for Texas and Oklahoma State. Stillwater is not a fun place to play. And that is one of the stadiums I really want to go to one of these days if Texas plays there, or just to go, you know. And shit, I would love to experience the Oklahoma State crowd. I mean, I've been to Texas A&M, I've been to Texas, I've been to Texas Tech, I've been to Mary Hardin Baylor. I mean, shoot. Been to Baylor several times, even when they were shitty, when they had Guy Morris, rest in peace, as a head coach. But Man, I would love to travel to out of state games. I would love to go to these stadiums. Like I've driven past Tallahassee to go home from the Navy. Uh, I've traveled past Death Valley in Baton Rouge. Uh, but I mean, I would love to go to some of these stadiums that have a lot of tradition, especially Oklahoma State's. Uh, I'm not necessarily a fanboy about Oklahoma State. I'm a fan of their culture, you know, and I have a lot of respect for Oklahoma State, and that's why I'm not as mad to why we lost. It's the way we lost is how I'm upset. I'm more upset at my boys not doing their job. And it happens. It's college football. It happens. You're not going to expect your team to go undefeated every year. I mean, if you do that, then you're a fucking mark, you know. Realistic fans know what to expect. I did say that we were going to have three losses this year. And I did say watch out for Oklahoma State. I did say watch out for TCU. I did not expect the Texas Tech loss, though. I thought we could have handled Texas Tech, but it is what it is. But let's go ahead and talk about Week 9. There's already a game getting started, so I'm going to talk about that game. Number 24, NC State, who's been really struggling as of late. They're taking on the 2-5 Virginia Tech Hokies. Now, this game to me, this should be an easy matchup, but without Devin Leary, NC State looks lost. I mean, they got Chambers as the starting quarterback right now, and I gotta say, man, this might be closer than what people think. But I'm still riding with the Wolfpack in this game. I think the Wolfpack are going to get the job done against Virginia Tech just to get bowl eligible. And hopefully Devin Leary comes back for NC State and they make a run for it. I mean, they're one of the teams that has been really developing over the last few years and has really shown that they could play. But Virginia Tech has been god-awful for the last several years. And I know they got a new hand man over there, but they better fix that culture over there because it's not the winning ways of Virginia Tech that I remember with Marcus Vick and yeah, I mean it's horrendous. It is dumpster fire over there at Virginia Tech. So I got NC State with that dub. Next game, which will be coming on later tonight, not 9 o'clock Central Time, got number 14 Utah, 5-2, who just came off of a big win a couple weeks ago against USC as they square off against Wazoo, 4-3, a very tough 4-3 team that has really gave their opponents trouble. They don't score a lot of points, but they will bring the fight to you. They brought the fight to Oregon. They brought the fight to USC, even though they lost. They brought the fight to Oregon State. Well, really, Oregon State kind of controlled that game, but still, I'd watch out for Wazoo in this matchup. But I'm still picking the Utes in this game. I think the Utes have finally figured themselves out. Cameron Rising has really stepped up as a leader. Thomas has really been a big factor. Kincaid has been a really good receiver for Rising. I mean, this is going to be a really good game to watch, folks. So tune in to Fox Sports 1 when the Utes play the Cougars. And right now, Virginia Tech and NC State are playing on ESPN if you guys want to watch that. I'm supposed to watch that game, but I kind of overslept today. So that's why we're a little late today. Anyway, but let's move on to Saturday's games. Number 20, Cincinnati Bearcats, 6-1, square off against the UCF Knights, 5-2. UCF are the favorites in this matchup. Rice Plumlee, 1,812 passing yards. Bryant, 1,761 yards. Difference is Bryant is the better quarterback as far as touchdown and interception ratio. And Rice Plumlee is a good running quarterback. So watch out for UCF in this game because I really do think Cincinnati's going to have a lot of trouble against this offense because Gus Malzahn is a offensive genius, just like Mike Leach, just like Mike Gundy and Steve Sarkisian. So, but Cincinnati's been on a run, but the last two games have been really close to inferior teams of USF and SMU. I mean, really close wins, in my opinion. And that's why I'm going with the UCF Knights. I think the UCF Knights are going to kill the streak here. And Cincinnati, they're going to go down to 6-2. Even though UCF lost to East Carolina at East Carolina, I still think UCF has got what it takes to beat Cincinnati in this game. Next game is number 2, Ohio State Buckeyes. Oh, I'm sorry. The Ohio State Buckeyes square off against the number 13 Penn State Nittany Lions, the 6-1 Nittany Lions who lost to Ohio State's rival, the Michigan Wolverines. C.J. Stroud, Sean Clifford, Singleton, Williams, Egbuka, Washington. This is going to be a good matchup. But how's that defense for Penn State? Let's take a look against pass yards allowed. 232 passing yards allowed. Okay, that's pretty decent. But what about the rushing yards allowed? 140. That's where I draw the line in this matchup. Ohio State's defense is really good. Penn State's is I'm going with Ohio State pretty convincingly. I think that Michigan game really exposed Penn State a little bit. As much as I really love and appreciate the Penn State Nittany Lions at home, it's gonna be a true test for Ohio State because of that crowd. But I think Ohio State's gonna win convincingly. I think they're gonna handle Penn State at home pretty easily, and it'll really show in the polls this next week if Georgia struggles against Florida, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Next game, number 7 TCU is traveling for once. Since the Kansas game, they will travel to West Virginia at Morgantown. JT Daniels and the Mountaineers square off against Max Duggan and the Horned Frogs. Now, I could see this being a trap game for TCU. And this could be a rat poison type of game for TCU. Morgantown is a tough place to play for any team. But I don't think West Virginia isn't as good as Austin, Texas. I don't think West Virginia is as good as Texas Tech. I mean, they showed it last week. I got TCU in a very easy win over West Virginia. Next game, number 16, Syracuse Orange, coming off of a big loss against Clemson. Pretty much gave away a 21-10 lead and got shut out 17 points against the Tigers. Squaring off against number 6 or they're squaring off against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 4-3, a resurging Notre Dame Fighting Irish. A team that has won their 4 out of their last 5 games. Their last game that they lost was to Stanford, 16-14. Their biggest win thus far it was against North Carolina and BYU. Syracuse, on the other hand, they just lost their first game of the season. They've really controlled teams, and they've really played well this season. I'm going to have to go with the Orange in this game. I think the Orange are really going to be pissed off that they lost the way they did against Clemson, and I think they're going to really step up in this one. I got the Orange winning this game. Next game is a game that is a neutral-sided game, just like the Red River rivalry game. Anthony Richardson and the underdog, Florida Gators, the Chomp, squaring off against Yuga, the Georgia Bulldogs, number 1 in the country. Stetson Bennett, Anthony Richardson, Gators, Bulldogs, in a huge rivalry game. I got to say, this Georgia defense is as good as last year's, and Florida is really – I don't know how to say this without being ugly. Okay, I'm still going to be ugly about it, but yeah, they had a bye week, but they have played piss poor, in my opinion. I don't think Florida has a chance against Georgia. I'm telling you that right now. I think Georgia is going to smack them around, and it's going to be a Bowers day. I think Bowers is going to have multiple touchdowns in this game. I think he's going to have 2 to 3. Stetson Bennett's going to have a field day with that defense. I think George is going to come away with a lot of turnovers against Anthony Richardson. I mean, I got the Bulldogs. If you ain't got that dog mentality, then you ain't got it. And Florida ain't got it. Georgia does. Georgia's got that dog mentality. So I got the Georgia Bulldogs winning this game. Next game, we got the 6-1 Quackers, the Oregon Ducks, traveling to California to take on the Cal Bears. After getting embarrassed against that Georgia team, that number 1 team in the country right now, the Ducks have really shown out in the last 6 weeks. 6-1. They just beat the hell out of UCLA. I say that because they really did. They beat the hell out of UCLA. Okay? And Bo Nix is finally starting to feel the rhythm in Oregon, and he looks good. And that offense looks electric, just like the years that LaMichael James and Marcus Mariota were around. But Cal, I don't really know how to feel about them. They started off really well in the first part of the season, and then last 5 games, they've only won 1 out of their last 5. They've lost 4 out of their last 5. They're on a 3-game losing streak. I got the Ducks winning this game. I think this game is going to be a beatdown, and I think Oregon's going to whoop that ass again. So I got the Ducks winning that game. Next game. This game to me is the highlight of the game of the week. Another Big 12 matchup. Another game of the week for these 2 teams. We got number 9, Oklahoma State, Ride 'em Cowboys, the Pokes, squaring off against that menacing Kansas State, number 22 in the country, Wildcats, with Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn. If Adrian Martinez is able to come back, I think this is going to be a great matchup. Oklahoma State is one of the highest scoring teams in the country. They are the least penalized teams in the country, just averaging 3 penalties a game. Despite last week, I counted 6 because Big 12 officials suck. But I think this is going to be a good game. I really do think so. And I got to say, if Kansas State uses that run game the way they do, they average 144 yards per game. But Oklahoma State, that's defensive. They average 232 yards offensively in the run game. So I expect Kansas State to really try to pound the rock against that Oklahoma State defense. Pretty much a similar way that Texas did last week, but I think they're going to use more read option. They're going to use more repass option type of plays. And Oklahoma State, they're a tough cookie. They might start off ugly, but they will finish a game. And it's going to be a close game, just like the Texas and Oklahoma State game, just like the Kansas State and the TCU game, just like the TCU-Oklahoma State game. I'm going with the Pokes in this one. I'm going with the away team. I think the Pokes are back on the horse. I think they will be in the Big 12 championship. They'll be one of the teams. I don't know who the other team is yet. If TCU is able to get past Texas, and that'll be the team. That'll be the matchup. But I still got Oklahoma State winning this game. I think it'll be a tough game. It's always a tough game between these two teams, and I got the Pokes winning this one. Next game, number 10, Wake Forest, the Demon Deacons, squaring off against the Louisville Cardinals, and they are 4-3. They're looking to maintain that winning way, and it looks like the experts have Louisville as the favorites. Malik Cunningham, just a dominant force on both the pass and the run game. Sam Hartman, just a awesome quarterback, 21 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions of the year that he's played. And they are playing in Louisville, so this is going to be a tough game for Wake Forest. But I still got the Demon Deacons in this game. I think they are looking to be a part of that ACC championship matchup. But for Louisville, I think they're one of the teams that are starting to step up their game too. But I got the Demon Deacons winning this game. Next game, number 17, Illinois puts its 5-game win streak on the line at Lincoln, Nebraska, taking on Casey Thompson and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, Illinois is the favorite to win this game, but I could see this being a trap game because Illinois' offense hasn't really scored that much. The highest they've scored in the last 5 games was 34. The biggest deficit that they won by was 31, and that was against Chattanooga. But they have played tough against everybody, and they have won against everybody except for Indiana, which they should have won that game. Very controversial game. But Nebraska, they've won 2 out of their last 3 games. They just lost to Purdue a couple weeks ago. But, man, I got the Illini. I can't help but pick the Illini. I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with this season. And watch out for the Fighting Illini. Next game. What the hell? Number 25, South Carolina Gamecocks look to win their 5th straight matchup against the Missouri Tigers. Missouri almost beat the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, Spencer Rattler, 5 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. I mean, I don't know how this team's 5-2. I don't know how this team's ranked for South Carolina, but they find ways to win. And I think it boils down to their defense. And they put on a show last week against Texas A&M, and they upset Kentucky. And they're on a 4-game win streak. They're on a 4-game win streak right now. Just like they're on a 4-game win streak against Missouri. And I gotta say, this is gonna be a weird game to watch. But I got the Gamecocks winning this game. Next game is another what I thought would be a contendership for a game of the week. Number 19 Kentucky taking on the number 3 goalpost throwing into the fucking river. Tennessee Volunteers. Hendon Hooker, Heisman front runner. CJ Rodriguez is back, or Chris Rodriguez is back, and he looks good right now. Jalen Hyatt, 40 receptions, 769 yards receiving, and 12 touchdowns to account for of Hendon Hooker's 18 touchdowns. I got to say, man, both teams in the last several weeks have impressed me, especially Kentucky beating Mississippi State at home, 27-17. But Tennessee, the Tennessee, the Rocky Top team, has defeated three top-ranked teams or top 25 ranked teams in the last 5 games. Yeah, they played against Akron and Tennessee Martin, but man, this is a tough football team to prepare for, and they are a tough team to beat. I got Tennessee winning this game. I think Kentucky's secondary is going to have a lot of trouble against that Tennessee offense. But yeah, I think it'll be a good game, but I think Tennessee will still end up on top by 2 touchdowns. Next game, number 10, USC. The Trojans coming off of a bye week, looking to bounce back after that loss against Utah. Squaring off against the Arizona Wildcats, who are 3-4, who are looking to get at 500. I don't think this is going to be a competitive game at all. I think USC is going to come in and they're pissed off that they lost, and I think they're going to smack the fuck out of Arizona. I got the Trojans winning in this game. Number 10 in the country. Expect them to win big in this one. Next game, I got a rivalry game that Michigan State has won the 6 of the last 10 games. And Michigan hasn't won a game since 2019 against Michigan State. This is one of the more competitive rivalries over the last few years. Very underrated rivalry, by the way. But this game, I think Ronnie Bell, Blake Corum, and J.J. McCarthy are going to absolutely beat the hell out of the Spartans in Ann Arbor. I got the Michigan Wolverines winning this game. I just think that offense is way too much for Michigan State, and Michigan State doesn't have enough firepower on offense against that Michigan defense. Next game is one of the more conflicting games, in my opinion. I think this game is going to be ugly. Not like beat down ugly. I mean, like, it's going to be a bad game to watch. Like, nobody is probably going to watch this game. If they do, great. It's better for college football if this game is competitive. Got the number 15, 7-1 Ole Miss, who just lost to LSU pretty bad. at Baton Rouge, squaring off against Texas A&M, who is having off the field issues, who's having issues on the field. 3-4, 1-3 in the conference. Ole Miss is favored to win this game, but man, I mean, you're looking at two offenses that can't throw the ball, two running backs that are really good, and you got two really good receivers on both sides, Mingo and Stewart, Judkins and Atchain. But Dart and Haynes King have not been able to throw the ball very well this season. But I'm going to go with the Rebels in this game. I think the Rebels are going to be a team that will bounce back against A&M. I mean, A&M is one of those teams right now that is trying to find themselves, and it's already too late to find themselves. You know, you're already in week 9, and you're 3-4. You're on the verge of being 3-5, and you've already suspended 3 players after losing to South Carolina. I mean, and over stupid shit. And Denver Harris is the one kid that is suspended, unfortunately. I don't know what to expect for A&M anymore. And you got those 1/3 A&M fans that are so high-strung about A&M that aren't realistic at all, that say, oh, we'll beat Ole Miss. I don't think so. I'm not convinced. If you can't beat South Carolina, if you can't beat Appalachian State, if you can't finish off a game against Alabama, who struggled in that game, then you don't deserve respect. You really don't. Once you start beating teams that you're supposed to beat, and once you start winning games that you're supposed to win, then I'll respect you. Just like the time when Johnny Manziel was playing quarterback. I respected the hell out of that bunch at Texas A&M. I hate Texas A&M, but that doesn't mean I can't respect them as a Longhorn fan. That's just me being a realistic fan. Kevin Sumlin was doing good things at A&M. I don't know what the fuck Jimbo Fisher's doing. He's sitting there with a fucking thumb up his ass right now because he can't do nothing about it. His players have really turned against him, I think. And it's starting to show. 3-4 when you were ranked 6th in the country. High expectations. High expectations. And now you're sitting there 3-4, having to suspend 3 guys who got caught smoking marijuana in the locker room of all places in South Carolina. And then off the field issues left and right. Rumors about boosters trying to get that money settled so that way they could buy out Jimbo Fisher's contract. I mean, what the fuck is going on with A&M right now? A&M looks piss poor right now. But I do hope that little brother just calm down and really take a bigger step approach and just deal with the fact that y'all's team is mediocre. I can't even talk right because A&M is that piss poor right now. And it's not the defense's fault. I respect that defense. It is the offensive side because Jimbo Fisher doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He's sitting there acting like a fucking dumbass like this, just looking around. You know? And he's not a good play caller. And he's a terrible fucking coach. Look at his track record in Florida State. Yeah, he won a national championship. But he had good coaching staff and he had talent. Not just 5-star talent. I'm talking about like talent that shows on the field and that you could trust those players on and off the field. I mean, take for granted Jameis Winston did steal crab legs, but that's a funny story. But anyway, I think Jimbo Fisher is the most overrated coach in college football. I really do think so. And as soon as he's gone from A&M, some piss poor school's going to want him. Some piss poor Power 5. Probably Nebraska's going to go after him if that's the case. If he gets fired this year. I don't think he will, but if they have the buyout, which is like $96 million, I believe. $96 million. If I were him, I would just retire. But I know he's stupid and stubborn. He would just go, okay, I want to coach somewhere else where I think I can build this team. Okay, Kevin Sumlin has a better record than you, by the way, jackass. So if I'm Jimbo Fisher, I start worrying about my job. I start packing up my bags, and I'm getting ready for when my pink slip is coming, because right now A&M fans are not happy. True A&M fans, not fucking bandwagoners that tell me that I'm one-dimensional and delusional when I talk bad about Jimbo Fisher. And when I talk bad about Texas A&M, I'm really talking about Jimbo Fisher. I mean, I hate A&M. But I also feel bad for them because they have a shit stain of a fucking coach. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. But I think Ole Miss is going to win this game. Next game, North Carolina, number 21. May squares off against Keaton Slovis and the Pitt Panthers. And this one is going to be a good one. 6-1 North Carolina Tar Heels host the 4-3 Pitt Panthers, who were ranked earlier this season. They've been kind of struggling in the past couple games. They lost to Louisville. They lost to Georgia Tech. They did beat Virginia Tech, Rhode Island, and Western Michigan, but North Carolina has been on a rampant ever since they lost to Notre Dame. They beat the hell out of Virginia Tech. They barely beat Miami, and they barely beat Duke. I mean, I think I'm going to go with North Carolina in this game. I think North Carolina Tar Heels are the team. They're really starting to hit their stride. Mac Brown has really done a good job over there regrouping that team after losing to Notre Dame in a shocking fashion. But hats off to the Tar Heels. I really like what they're doing this season. Next game, this is our last game, by the way, before I close out the college football talk, and then I'll go straight into the NFL talk right after this live stream. Stanford travels to UCLA, and UCLA is coming off of a big loss over Oregon, number 12 in the country, still in the front running for the Pac-12 championship, still in the running for the college football playoff. They still have a chance. They just can't lose another game. I think this is going to be an easy matchup for UCLA. They're going to come back strong against Stanford. I think UCLA just had a bad game against Oregon. And I think DTR is going to go off. I think Charbonnet is going to go off again. Zach Charbonnet is a dog right now. And that Stanford defense ain't going to be able to hold that UCLA offense, man. I really got UCLA winning this game. And that concludes the PMP college football talk. Now, I know I put on there my Heisman contenders, I believe. So here's my first one. I got Hendon Hooker. I think he's really stepped up this year. And Josh Heupel has really built up for that kid's success this year. I mean, I saw really good flashes last season, and I was like, damn, this Tennessee quarterback is going to be good next year. Well, he exceeded my expectations. I'm really impressed with what he's done and what that offense has been able to do. But I really do think that he might win the Heisman this year if he keeps it going. And they beat Georgia and they beat Kentucky. The last two big dominoes in effect for Tennessee's road. There's still a lot of trap games that they got to play still, but the sky's the limit for Tennessee. Then we got C.J. Stroud, who's really stepped up this year. Really stepped up after that Notre Dame game. I really do think this is a good quarterback right here. He was the runner-up for the Heisman last season. He's on the verge of being close to being the Heisman front runner or the runner-up to Hendon Hooker. I just think if he has a really good game against Michigan, then we'll see his Heisman moment, and he'll be a very good draft prospect. I think he's probably going to be one of those NFL team. Going to be that quarterback that NFL teams are going to be like, damn, we need that motherfucker. That motherfucker's got what it takes to be an NFL quarterback. And last one, in my opinion, is a guy from Michigan. He has really impressed me since last season. Blake Corum. That kid is a fucking stud. Okay? He is a fucking dog. Okay? And, man, I'm excited to see what he does this season. But, yeah. So, I'm running out of time here, folks. And make sure to tune in next week. We'll probably do a podcast Tuesday afternoon for college football. Recap Week 9 and Week 10 predictions. And then I'll let you know more about NFL when we get done with NFL tonight. I'll be the only one on tonight. Caleb's not going to be available tonight. So, in other words, I'll be on tonight. Matter of fact, probably around 8 o'clock. I know there's an NFL game on, but we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. But I will say this. We are the greatest football podcast on YouTube, soon to be Spotify, soon to be whatever the hell y'all want us to be a part of. We are the PMP. Thank you very much for watching tonight. And tune in next week, Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Time, Texas time, Chicago time. Dog mentality. Let's go. Tune in here in the next 20 minutes or so because I'll be on again. NFL talks. Predictions. Ta-ta for now. Doing something different, and I had to switch it up. Turned up in my section, every night we live it up. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. Doing something different, and I had to switch it up. Turned up in my section, every night we live it up. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. All my haters mad, but I don't give a fuck. This shit is exciting. Do it when I write team. My style they biting. I'm striking like me. I'm begging this bitch. I'm talking my shit. I'm begging this bitch. I'm talking my shit. I'm